As always, this is a Valid Studios production. Real quick, I want to talk to you about different ways that you can help support the show. The number one way you can support the show is by sharing it with a friend. That's the fastest way that podcasts grow. Otherwise, the ways that you can help the show is by going and giving us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, giving us a subscribe on YouTube, and then also by giving us a 5-star review and a follow wherever you get your podcasts. We hope that you leave the show better than when you found it and that all of your friends do too. Everybody, want to take a quick break and discuss our partner, Cowboy Revolution Apparel. If you want 15% off all of their products, go to the website, use promo code VALIDStudios, all uppercase, Valid Studios. Everything they make is made with comfort in mind, all right, and it all looks great. So go get yourself a hat, and we know you'll enjoy it just as much as we do. All right, Paul Jaminet, welcome on the show. How are you doing today?
Very good, Ben. It's great to be with you.
And you said you'd be doing some traveling later this week. Where are you going?
Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, so we have an event there.
What are you doing in Washington?
Just meeting with some investors and some government officials and one of my cousins.
So I always start every guest with kind of a background and introduction, so you get one of those as well. So let me know if this is encompassing or if I leave anything out. So my uncle, I'm proud to say we do share the same last name, so guests will notice that. But Paul Jaminet, Ph.D. in physics from Cal Berkeley, as well as a bachelor's in both physics and philosophy from MIT. Started your career as an astrophysicist at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. After that, you transitioned into software entrepreneurship during the internet boom, and finally settled into health research, which resulted in your book that you co-authored with your wife, Shou-Ching, called The Perfect Health Diet. You used that research to found your current biotech company, Angiex, which has led to some astonishing advancements in cancer research. Anything to fill in there?
Well, that's pretty fair, but so we had a natural health business with a health retreat, and that was what the book was about. But meanwhile, my wife was a researcher in the Harvard system, Harvard Medical School, and she was studying cancer and discovered an amazing biology which potentially enables us to effectively cure cancer, to potentially prevent people from dying from it. And so after she discovered that, we had to start a cancer therapy company. So the cancer therapy company didn't directly grow out of the natural health business, but there are still ties between them. So people we met through our natural health business have been important in helping us build the cancer therapy company. So, for example, former guests of our health retreat have invested $20 million into the company. It's been a great journey, and we now have a drug in the clinics, which is doing well. So we're at an exciting moment.
So obviously you have a laundry list of accolades here that I just kind of read off, but I think Angiex is probably the most, I guess, I don't want to say impressive, but probably the most influential as far as the amount of people it can impact. I think you would agree with that. So that's kind of where I want to spend most of the time today. So my first question would be, for the audience, what led you to start Angiex, and what was your biggest motivator growing up that allowed you to be so passionate about this?
Well, you may know that my mother, your grandmother, died of cancer when we were young. So she was diagnosed with cancer while she was pregnant with me. She died when I was 10. So that's certainly a motivator, but I wouldn't say that that's why we did it. It was really my wife discovered a way to cure cancer, and if she hadn't done that, I would never have gotten into biotech or starting a cancer company. But just because you make a great scientific discovery, it doesn't mean that anybody cares about it, and
Right.
Or knows that it happened, and or that anyone will give you money to make a drug. And cancer therapies, they cost, to take them from idea to approval, cost $300 million or more. and uh, and people just aren't that willing to provide $300 million, and
I can imagine.
so so it's quite a project to go from a scientific discovery to an approved drug. So my wife really, magnificent scientist, but an academic scientist, and whereas I considered myself an entrepreneur, and that's, essentially the job is, if something ought to be done, bringing together the people who can make it happen. And, so it was really my responsibility to pull together all the people that could make this drug happen and make it real. And so that's what I did, and with my wife's help. So we co-founded Angiex in 2015, and we've been pulling together all the people we need and the money we need to bring the drug forward.
So tell me about the kind of keynote Angiex drug that you are working on, both scientifically and then maybe in layman's terms for the rest of us.
Yeah. So what my wife discovered was biology, which switches endothelial cells. Those are the cells that line blood vessel walls from a quiescent state, which is the state they're in most of your blood vessels, or just about all of your blood vessels as an adult, where all they're doing is passing nutrients and oxygen from the blood into tissue, and taking waste products from tissue and passing it into the blood so that you can clear it out of the body. But they're not multiplying, they're not invading tissue, they're not moving around the body. But endothelial cells can switch into another state called the angiogenic or activated state, where they can multiply, they can invade tissue. So if you have tissue that doesn't have enough blood, they can tunnel into it and build a blood vessel into it so that they bring blood closer to the cells. And they can heal wounds, they can build new tissue. And so that process, it's very important in embryonic development and in childhood growth, but it's not present in adults because adults aren't growing, except in tumors or in some other disease conditions like a healing wound. And so my wife discovered this protein TM4SF1, which is basically switches endothelial cells into that mobile and proliferating state. And it turns out that TM4SF1 also does the same thing in cancer cells. And that transition is called the epithelial to mesenchymal transition. So it converts cancer cells from cells that are stationary and don't move into cells that can migrate around, can invade tissue, can metastasize. So it turns them malignant and invasive and metastatic. And so she had made a great discovery. She discovered a protein that is, very fundamental for cancer. It turns the cancer cells malignant, but it also enables the tumor to grow its blood supply. And this biology, so the way TM4SF1 does that is it creates a transport route from the cell surface to the nucleus that transports all the proteins that need to get to the nucleus to change gene expression to turn on this, mobile, invasive, metastatic gene program. And it turns out that transport pathway can be exploited. We can send a drug along that transport pathway and get into the nucleus of the cells, and that's a great place to be able to deliver drugs. And so we designed a drug that could be IV infused, so it just goes in a vein in your arm, and then it circulates around the body and it finds wherever this program is turned on, which in adults is only in tumors, and then it hitchhikes along that internalization route to the nucleus, and it deposits cytotoxic payload there. And so essentially it's kind of like a guided missile which finds the cells of the tumor, and when it gets inside them it blows up a warhead and blows up the cells. And so we found a way to basically kill the cells of the tumor without harming any cells anywhere else in your body. And so we made a drug that does that, and we're dosing patients, and so far the drug has only had effects in the tumor. So we've succeeded in blowing up a lot of tumor cells. We've had no observable effect outside of tumors, and so far we've only blown up enough tumor cells to stop the cancers from growing. So we're killing the tumor cells at about the same rate that they're multiplying, but we're just going up to the dose where we think we'll be shrinking tumors. And so, we think very soon, within a few months, we'll have, proof that we can safely shrink all solid cancers.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you and congratulate you and Shou-Ching on such an incredible discovery, because everybody knows somebody that has cancer that's been affected by it. Most people have family members that have died, and obviously it is such a pervasive disease. So to finally have some hope, I think people are excited to hear that, that this is actually something that's possible after so many years of research. So I just want to say thank you for that and congratulate you for what you're doing in such an incredible space.
Yeah, we're excited. So it's 23 years of biology research and 13 years of drug development to get to this point. So, it's been quite a bit of work, but well worth it. So.
You mentioned how difficult it is to get a drug to market, not only in cancer research, but in every facet of medicine. What are some obstacles other than, obviously, you mentioned the financial aspect of raising $300 million being no easy feat, I'm sure. What other aspects have you seen, maybe on the business side of things, that have made it difficult to get the drug to its end destination?
Well, I think the business side is challenging to a great extent because most people, their motivations are kind of on 3 or 4 year timescales. So a lot of people change jobs every 3 to 5 years, and they expect to, that they won't be at a job for 20 years, but it takes 15 years to develop a drug and bring it to approval. So it's not only $300 million, but 15 years. And, so people, will often care about their careers, their personal welfare. It's at least more urgent for them than the success of the drug, or there's often a lot of competing motives. And when you have a $300 million project, you can have a lot of people involved, and so they have different motives. And so just to speak among investors, so a lot of investments, if you think of venture capital investments or private equity investments, they come through funds, and the funds are run by general partners who raise from limited partners. And typically the funds have a short lifespan, and the limited partners expect to get money back in 3 to 5 years. So so the funds want a return on their investment. So they don't want to invest in something, risky, which takes 15 years to get the revenue. And in drug making, you're not allowed to have any revenue. You can't charge for your product until after it's approved. So you have to go through that 15 years and $300 million of expenses to get to approval. And so you've got this real disconnect between the needs of a lot of people involved and their time horizons, their motivations, and what you need in order to build the company and get the drug to approval. So that's a challenging business problem that you don't see in other businesses where you can get revenue very quickly, and you don't have the same regulatory barriers. So, like I started my entrepreneurial career in software, and you could create a software product and start getting revenue from it very quickly. So then you can bootstrap the company. You can use revenue to help you get investments, and it's a marker of progress. It's a marker that you're pleasing someone, and you can see by how much you can charge how well you're pleasing them. So you get instant feedback, and you can, if you have something really good, you can get it to profitability, or you can get it to a rapid uptake that encourages people to invest. It's very different in drug making, and so it's definitely a challenge to pull together all the people you need at each stage, but also to keep them together long enough. So I would say
Right.
there's definitely significant business issues, and probably the biggest one is the amount of money, the amount of time you need, and the misalignment between individual people's motivations and the needs of the business and of the drug.
What that reminds me of immensely, and what I want to ask you about, is the COVID vaccine, because you mentioned how long it takes to get something like that across the finish line. In your opinion, having been in the industry and seeing the different inner workings, can you speak to kind of the efficacy with that? I don't want to get too political here, but at the same time, I think it's been a great discussion amongst all people that a lot of people care about. And a lot of people have been polarized into, these people are entirely pro-vaccine, entirely anti-vaccine, when I think the reality is that it's somewhere in the middle, as for most political issues. But as with most political issues, it's somewhere in the middle. So can you kind of speak to the efficacy of those vaccines that are pushed at an extremely fast rate, such as the COVID vaccine, and what your thoughts on those are?
Yeah. Well, I think no one should take any product that's an mRNA lipid nanoparticle because I don't think there's any way those can be beneficial. So they start just from a drug making perspective. They start from a lot of negatives. So first of all, they can't deliver natural mRNA because natural mRNA is degraded in a few seconds within cells. So your body is constantly manufacturing mRNA and destroying it, and so it always keeps everything near what it thinks is the optimal equilibrium. And if a drug delivered natural mRNA, it would it'd have no effect. It would be destroyed very quickly. So instead, what people deliver is an unnatural kind of mRNA that's stabilized, meaning it can be translated into protein, but it can't be degraded by the body. And so that's usually done by altering the backbone of the nucleotides in a way that gums up the degradation machinery. And, so you're basically delivering a toxin. So it can keep translating and making that protein, but it's messing up all of your RNA machinery and, giving you these things that look like real nucleotides but are unnatural and potentially quite dangerous. And then the lipid nanoparticles themselves are quite dangerous. And then you have another issue, so you're delivering things, and there's a rule in toxicology that the dose makes the poison. So at low doses, almost anything is ineffective. At some moderate range of doses, if you have a good drug, then it can be beneficial. But anything, if you go to too high doses, becomes harmful and becomes a poison. And, that's even beneficial things. And the thing about these lipid nanoparticles is when you inject them, you've got no real control over where they go. So some cells you'll get a huge amount, and some cells you'll get very little, and some cells in between. So even if they were somehow beneficial if you delivered the right dose to a cell. Most of the cells in the body would be either getting way too much and would be poisoned, or too little. And so basically there's, it's next to impossible to make a lipid nanoparticle carrying stabilized mRNA that's going to do good for anyone. And then, of course, with these things, when they're so rushed and they have the special regulatory pathway, then there was no regulation of the manufacturing process. They didn't have to prove purity. They weren't examined. And, so there was potential to have all kinds of contaminants in there. But then there's an issue, I think the whole concept of delivering a vaccine. So, the vaccines that I grew up with, you were thinking, you would expect them to be like inactivated proteins that don't bind to anything, and they just circulate in the blood, and the immune system encounters them and makes antibodies to them, but there's nothing going inside cells. And in this case, we were making the lipid nanoparticles intentionally going inside cells and then trying to express the foreign things on top of the cells. And so the only way the drug could be a vaccine to make antibodies against it, you'd have to make antibodies that would be binding to your own cells and causing the immune system to attack your own cells. So it's basically, either you weren't going to get any efficacy, or you're going to generate a lot of autoimmunity and an immune attack on your own cells. And there was really no, it had to be very harmful, and there was no way for it to be beneficial. So I think the whole episode was, it was really catastrophic from a public health perspective, very damaging. So that was disappointing. And I've forgotten now if there was a second part of your question and where you were leading me toward. But
no, you covered it. The other part of that would be, in your opinion, obviously there's bright people like yourselves over at Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, all of these different massive multi-billion-dollar companies that had to know the same things that you know. So do you think that kind of the ignoring of those risks came at a kind of political push? Was it financial? What are the different things that can cause a company to ignore something that seemingly would be a morality issue?
It's very disappointing. It was, eye-opening about humanity and the nature of humanity, I guess. So we found that if you offer people enough money and give them immunity from liability, then they'll be willing to do a lot of harm to their fellow man. And, I don't think there's any way around the conclusion that, some people, some people were ignorant, they didn't know what was going on, and they cooperated from a state of confusion. But, I think there were definitely people who knew that this was harmful and went forward anyway because it was, there was money in it, or there was, some other advantage they were pursuing.
All right. Well, thank you for kind of clarity on that. That's something I've been, wanting clarity on for a long time. And, if you're a well-informed citizen, I think you can reason through a lot of those things, but it's comforting to hear, well, disturbing and comforting in its own way. I know those are two kind of converse words, but at the same time, it's comforting to hear that, we're not crazy, when we feel like this is rushed, this is something that, can't be effective when there's all these different guidelines in place for all these other drugs. How is it any different for this one? But also, as you mentioned, sort of disturbing to know that we haven't come, further than that in our humanity as a society. So Angiex underwent a flurry of Series B investing in August 2021. For my research, that netted almost $45 million, which is a big chunk in your $300 million. One of those investors was Peter Thiel, obviously very well known for all of his different venture capital investments. Was that a direct investment from him, or was that through a venture capital firm?
Yeah, that was primarily directly from him. So we have had small investments from funds associated with him, but most of Peter's money came from his Roth IRA. So he has a Roth IRA, and he makes personal investments out of it. And he invested $11 million himself through that. And so we did get token investments from some other funds in the Thiel family, and large investments from a fund called Presight Capital, which is in the Aperon investment group. So that's a European fund family associated with Christian Angermeyer, and they're allied and often co-invest with Peter Thiel.
Were you able to work with him kind of directly at all on the business side of things, or was he more of just a limited financier?
Yeah, I only met him once. So I haven't worked directly with Peter. I've worked with his team. And he's had a board seat since early on in the life of the company, so 2 different board members. So of course I interact closely with them.
What are your impressions of him? Do you like him? Is he a pretty down-to-earth guy? Or, most people will never interact or run into these massively wealthy billionaires that are in the news, and I think it's helpful to kind of humanize these people every once in a while, because they are so kind of demonized in the short media cycle for all of their different kind of...
Yeah. I've only met Peter once, so
Right.
I don't have an ability to share a lot of anecdotes. So I would say they're a little bit unconventional as investors. They're certainly unconventional for the life sciences space. I would say as an investor, they're a little more transactional in their orientation, not so much, relational. So more of a, legal financial orientation than a science orientation. So Peter himself has a law degree and has been, mainly a finance guy in his career. But definitely very, well-connected, powerful. So you can see, his major companies like Palantir are big companies, but closely involved with military, defense, intelligence. He's definitely very well connected, very powerful, and wealthy himself, but connections to a lot of other wealth besides his own. So, but I can't say that I know him personally.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of the disturbing kind of realization that we had with COVID, especially in the health space. But I think there seems to be a deep-seated kind of belief within society in general that the reason we don't yet have a cancer treatment is because there's larger powers at play preventing that from happening due to the profitability, not only from hospitals, but also from all of these different bio companies that profit off of coming up with treatments that aren't necessarily cure-alls. So do you worry at all that you're facing an uphill battle against powers at play that are a little bit larger and darker than can physically be felt?
No, which so I'm not saying that those powers may not be there, but it's more. It doesn't matter whether they're there or not. The fact is that we discovered a way to cure cancer, so we have to try to bring it to reality and bring it to people. And now I'm not aware of any cure for cancer that's been killed by malign forces. I think cancer is very hard to cure, and I do think there's a strong bias in the drug industry away from trying to do transformative things and toward trying to do incremental things. So a lot of drugs are fast followers that make a small change on some prior drug, and they're just trying to find some different patient population, and so I would say the vast majority of the money invested in cancer is not going to places that have the potential to to really have a transformative impact. They're intended to have a small positive impact. And you could say the same thing about the government's funding of scientific research. So, it's very hard with the current grant review process to get a grant unless a random group of reviewers recognizes what you're doing and agrees that it's important. And so the NIH grant review process, they pull a bunch of academics together. They'll give a grant to 3 academics. They get maybe 20 minutes per grant to read it and write comments. So it has to be kind of off the cuff, off the top of their heads, and if they don't immediately recognize, oh, this is important, then they won't score it highly. And what makes them immediately recognize, oh, this is important, it's they're familiar with the field of work. So you have a situation where people can, there's the old joke about the drunk who loses his car keys in the dark, but he looks for them under the streetlight because that's where it would be easy to find them if they were there because it's well lit. And it's kind of the same way in the scientific funding process. The grant reviewers will only give grants to people who are looking under the streetlights because that's what they can recognize. That, it's only because work has been published in that area in the past that they feel it's important. And if something is totally new, then if you're doing science in the dark, then nobody knows it's important, and so you can't get funding. So I think there's, I think we have a problem that, in general, money is too centralized, and they're really, in order for truly innovative science to get more easily funded, there should be a dispersion of power so that there's more people providing the money and there's more ability to try different things.
Do you think that if, and hopefully when, Angiex is brought to market and is proven to be effective and essentially a cure for cancer, do you think that there will be kind of spin-offs or, dare I even say, like copycat companies? Kind of, as you mentioned, there's always these little variations.
Oh, sure. So once we've proven that our approach works, then 40 or 50 companies will start drug development projects, trying to mimic what we've done or improve upon it a little, or just find a little niche where they can make money that we haven't gotten to yet.
Will you give a little bit more information on just where Angiex currently sits in the process, and then sort of a timeline maybe over the next several months and then into the next several years as to what getting the drug to market and available for public use when that might be?
Yeah, so we're currently in what's called phase 1. We're in the late stages of our dose escalation. So the way clinical trials start is you have to start dosing at very low doses, which are believed to be very safe but also ineffective. And then you just work your way, you see what happens, and you work your way up in dose. And you see, do you get to a dose that's not safe where you're no longer tolerated, and then you have to stop dosing at that level and go lower, or do you see efficacy? So once you've gotten to a non-tolerated dose and you have to go back down, then you can search among different patients to find, who can you treat with efficacy. Now, in our case, we potentially have a universal therapy where it could be effective in every patient, and it also might be very safe. And so we have the potential to reach efficacy before we reach a non-tolerated dose. So we'll see how that goes. So we're now, we've gone safely through 5 different dose levels. We're now on our 6th dose level. And this is the dose level where we expect to see efficacy. So the next 4 months will be very telling as far as the performance of our drug. And then, so assuming the next 4 months go well, then we'll have determined what's called the recommended phase 2 dose, or the dose that we think will be the ultimate label dose or the best dose for patients. And that's where we'll do more clinical work, so clinical work leading toward approval. And, so we'll explore specific indications. And in our case, we're prioritizing a cancer called angiosarcoma. And that's a rare cancer. It arises from endothelial cells. And so the special thing about angiosarcoma for us is that because 100% of endothelial cells express our target, TM4SF1, 100% of angiosarcoma cells are high expressors and should be very sensitive to our drug. So we have the potential to kill all or virtually all angiosarcoma cells, and it's a very high unmet need cancer with a low bar to approval. So because TM4SF1 endows cells with invasiveness and an ability to metastasize, and 100% of angiosarcoma cells have high TM4SF1, then all of them have the ability to invade and metastasize. So it's a very aggressive cancer. The 5-year survival is under 12%. Overall survival about 13 months, and median overall survival. And there's no approved drug for it, and the drugs that are used off-label have low response rates. So the second-line standard of care has about a 5 to 6% response rate. So really no good drugs, and no approved drugs. The off-label drugs don't work well, and so very low bar to approval. Great need among the patients, and potential for our drug to work extremely well. So that's what we'll seek for our first approval. But we have potential to treat just about all solid cancers. So, we think we can bring benefits to just about every patient, and, so we'll aim to prove that in the clinic.
Is there a certain timetable for getting this fully established and fully registered with the FDA? And
yeah, so we'd like to get to approval in angiosarcoma in 2028. We're working on making that feasible. And then to be able to serve larger market cancers, we have to be able to produce on a larger scale the drug. And we wouldn't be ready to do that before about 2029. So potential approvals in large market cancers in 2029.
So post proof of efficacy over here in the next 4 months or so, do you expect to see the investment side of things begin to snowball a little bit as you begin to see the writing on the wall?
We'll need it too, so we'll need to raise quite a bit of money. So that work to get to approval and to build a large-scale commercial supply chain is very expensive. So you do need to fundraise, and so once we prove that the drug works, then we should be able to raise large sums of money, and we'll need to in order to get the drug to approval on the timetable that we're hoping for.
And so post 2028, if everything goes sort of according to plan there, you mentioned the scalability of having to produce on a much larger scale. In what other ways do you see kind of your focus and responsibilities within the company changing so that this does become a widely spread kind of treatment for such a popular disease?
Yeah, well, so we'll have great responsibilities in regard to this lead drug. So we'll need to get it to approval for all solid cancers, for every cancer that it can treat, and approval in all the jurisdictions around the world, so all the different countries. In many cases, we'll need partners to help us sell it and market, distribute it. But in addition to that, we have the potential to make additional drugs. So we don't aim to be just a one-drug company. We'd like to make additional drugs, and so once we prove this works, we'd like to find more ways to help patients.
So creating something so revolutionary and something that is talked about across society so desperately. People have been wanting something like this for so many years, and it's something that afflicts people more than maybe anything else on earth. And it's so disheartening to see, someone you love really wither away because that's the nature of the disease. What do you hope that your legacy is moving on even after this company?
Well, I hope, so I do believe that Angiex and this drug, they're to a great extent a gift to humanity from heaven. So for whatever reason, I think we've been blessed with the opportunity and the duty to bring this forward and to make these discoveries, but to bring it forward and make it real. And I guess most importantly, I'd like people to have hope. I think heaven has not abandoned humanity, and we need to cooperate with heaven to help good things happen. And so I would hope people would not lose hope and be encouraged by the Angiex story.
Well, in a world that I think very desperately needs hope right now, I think God is smiling down on you. And certainly I think one day at the gates of heaven, I'm sure you will be labeled one of the good and faithful servants that really made a difference in the world, unlike many people really can. So for my generation especially, thank you from the bottom of my heart, that hopefully people my age will see the eradication of such a terrible disease that the generations before us have been absolutely ravaged by.
Yeah, thank you, man. Those are kind words.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's really an honor to have someone in the family doing something so big. So I don't know if, I wasn't related to you, I would be able to get someone like you on the show. So I'm really, really appreciative of your time. I know you're very busy. So love you and wish you luck over the next several months, and hope to talk to you soon.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ben. Stay in touch.